Today I'm going to show you my tips on what you should do for the early game of Terraria Hardcore. I'm doing this currently in Master Mode. So at the beginning, I don't bother getting any of these trees that are that small. We just want to kind of move quickly. I'm going to go ahead and consume some fruit. Once you get to these trees that are a little bit bigger, then you want to start getting yourself some building blocks. We're going to start off by making a wooden sword. I found this to be a little bit easier and more reliable for hunting enemies. We're going to want to make sure that we get quite a few building blocks because when we go into the caves, we're constantly going to be able to protect ourselves, and then also here on the surface we might see some puddles that'll show us the location of some skylands, and we want to have plenty of platforms to go up to those skylands, just like this. When you get these small puddles that are nowhere near a lake in Terraria, that's the world generation indication that there is a skyland above it. It doesn't tell you whether or not it's a lake or island that has a chest, but we can go and check that here in just a bit. Collecting enough gel to get some torches. When it's this early into the game, you don't really have access to a bunch of rope, so I just recommend using platforms and kind of bridging up like this. We're just going to keep the location of that little pond in mind as we go up. Start turning around here in just a moment. And just like this, you see that we've come across a skyland that was indicating. And so now we're just a few minutes into the game and we've already got a Star Fury. I recommend building a little house to protect your spawn zone. Whenever you come back here later on, you want to know that you're not just going to get instantly swarmed with a bunch of enemies. I'm doing this recording around the Halloween update, so at the moment there's a bunch of pumpkins. It's nice to collect the pumpkins because they're going to be an easy source of some armor. And we just want to keep hitting all these trees as we're going around so that we can get a bunch of fruit. Now, when we go into these caves, we want to have a couple of things on some dedicated slots in our hotbar. You should always know where your recalls are so you can access them quickly. Building blocks are a very important thing to have, and I also just recommend knowing where your torches are because sometimes you're going to need that light and you just don't want to be panicking. Now we've gone into the caves and we just get some quick access to houses. Just want to loot that quickly. Hunter potion is really good early on. You get a bomb statue. That's going to be fantastic for some stuff that we do later on once we have the shimmer, so we can make a timer even before we get to Skeletron. And now early on we just need to be very cautious of the first trap. Now that we've found this first trap, we want to also give this a dedicated slot in our inventory, in our hotbar, so that as we go around, we can just constantly be flipping between our light source and the trap detector as we go around. I recommend skipping a bunch of the early game ores. You should collect some iron, because you obviously need that for an anvil, but also having minecarts for early on is good. I recommend skipping tungsten and silver mining. It's just not really worth your time to have that sort of armor. Their values are pretty low, and it's not going to make a big difference at super low HP. On minecarts in particular, you also need to remember that they can be trapped, so I recommend just running along the minecarts like this whenever you're going to do something, particularly if you're like around minecarts and you have a lot of open area. I just recommend blocking it off for yourself so that nothing sneaks up behind you. Always be checking for traps. I like getting some of these statues that can spawn enemies because that makes things easier down the road for farming banners or certain materials. Now, in there I just picked up an angel statue, which is another great thing because depending on your views on duplication, once you kill Skeletron and get access to the mechanic, you have an easy duplication glitch with the monoliths for money, so that you don't have to just mindlessly grind for money to do a bunch of reforges and whatnot with the goblin, if that's something that you're okay with doing in your run. But we're gonna have plenty of ways to get easy access to money, even if that is not the case. It's just a matter of how you want to spend the time. If, like me, you get lucky early on with a Star Fury, remember that this can go through walls, and that's very nice for scoping out areas to go and explore. Whenever you're digging down a tunnel like this, it's always good to block off above you, because you do not want a skeleton dropping down in your tight tunnel. You'll just have to quickly recall, and it will not be good for you. Now, I've just gotten to 180 HP, and I'm very fortunate how quickly this run is going. I'm only 10 minutes in. And there's some consideration to just stay at 180 HP, because now if you go to 200, you can start to get the Eye of Cthulhu spawning. If you're comfortable being underground once you see the message for the whole night, then you don't have to deal with that spawning. Anytime you see a gold chest like I found where it's just out in the middle of nowhere, always making sure that you're checking it to be dead man's. Now, if you don't have glow sticks like I didn't have, you can do this where you just go to the bottom of the lake, you build some blocks, and then you mine yourself out an air hole. It seems like I haven't cleared it quite enough to place down some torches. Alright, now we have access to use this stuff for free. We just got a magic mirror, which is very nice, but it's important to remember that in hardcore, well, not just in hardcore, in Terraria, the magic mirror activates slower than the recall. So you always want to make sure that your recall is what you keep in your inventory, or your hotbar, and not your magic mirror, because in a quick I need to panic and go home decision, it's going to be a lot quicker and safer for you to have recall. Now, I've been fortunate early on and I've got plenty of gold, so I'm going to go ahead and make myself a gold pickaxe. If you need extra storage for duplicate accessories, remember that you have additional slots. It's good to keep that stuff and not have thrown it away, so that later on we can sell it to NPCs for some early cash. Now, I found a spider biome. It's good to get some cobwebs if you can early on, because cobwebs combined with Shiverthorn gives you access to danger sense, which will show you the traps that you might encounter early on when you don't have the grand design. So it's very nice to have plenty of materials for that. Anytime you're going to stop and do something, you want to make sure that you still have light, so just place down torches. Use glow sticks to keep it lit up as you're digging down in an area, and just a reminder that you always want to be blocking off on top of you. If you are playing during the Halloween update, these ghosts can just spawn randomly in the cavern layer. Be careful. I recommend, if you get down deep enough, that you grab the first bit of lava that you can see. We're going to want to make a trap early on that can easily help us farm for the goblin army and take care of events like the blood moon. Once you've done your first recall back to the surface after your mining trip, now that you've fulfilled some of the spawning requirements for NPCs, is a good time to start building your first house. I like to make my initial houses in this style for a variety of different reasons. Having these chests down below make it easy to access when I'm using the crafting tables. Having the anvil and the crafting thing in range of the ores is very useful. I like to keep one space between the crafting table and the anvil, because later we can replace this location of the crafting table to be a alchemy bench, and then we can put the new crafting table right here where this torch goes. Other things I keep in mind is I like to make this little trap for slimes right outside the door, as well as mining the block directly outside of the door. So mining the block directly outside of the door makes it so that the zombies don't knock. Then we've got a basic house, and I've got 280 HP, so maybe Cthulhu will spawn at some point. I'm gonna go ahead and make a sky minecart. I don't have a specific Y level that I go to. I just sort of go up for a bit, check my height, see if I think that I would be above where a living tree would spawn, but then still pretty low, so that hopefully I don't get harpies on me. I just pick something. And then we're just going to keep making this long. This will make it easy to access anywhere in our world. Get past some difficult biomes if you happen to be surrounded quickly by your world corruption or, crimson, as well as getting past the jungle. Any other biome that's difficult, it just makes it fast and easy to access biomes later on in the game, as well as this is an easy way to fight the Cthulhu. If you're going to use your rails for your Eye of Cthulhu fight, I recommend hammering to the side. As I had mentioned earlier when we got the lava, we're going to want to make a trap. they can spawn. So the spawning conditions for the Goblin's army is that if you have 200 HP and you've broken an orb, the Goblin army can start to spawn. And they are honestly they're a little scary. So it's nice to have a way to be mostly safe from them. In here, we're still going to have to deal with these summoners, the magic users. But if we dig an area big enough underneath this lava pyramid, then we're going to be able to have the shamans start teleporting. Next up, what I'm interested in doing is finding out the color of the dungeon. There's a Reddit thread that I'm going to link in the description that will show you how the color of your dungeon relates to what horizontal position you should be mining for your shimmer location. Getting the shimmer early on is going to give us access to the timer, as well as, various related shimmer buffs, and a cheap way to reforge our gear, both just by not having to spend money, or by being able to do it before we actually get the goblin, because you can craft. Now I'm just passing through the snow biome, and I'm trying to find some shiver thorn so that I can make danger sense potions to keep me safe when I'm in the underground. But unfortunately, I was not able to find any on the surface in that search. Next, I'm going through my world's Crimson, and I'm trying to get a gun so that I can have access to the arms dealer. You can actually destroy the first two while you're here so that you get access to a weapon. If you are not like me and did not get the Star Theory, you can get access to the Rotten Fork, which is really nice early on. The Traveling Merchant has spawned for me, and this is my first Traveling Merchant. So what I recommend doing when you get the Traveling Merchant is grabbing some of your blocks, and specifically silt or slush, and we're going to kill him. The reason we want to kill the Traveling Merchant so early on is that we want to make sure that we have his hat for upgrading and getting more from our future Traveling Merchants. Falling block, and then just left click up here and watch them fall. The grave from the Traveling Merchant will also help us possibly spawn an Abigail's Flower, or later on be able to use it to craft with Ectomist. I've just located an umbrella, and I like to keep that in a dedicated spot as well, because it's good fall damage protection anytime I realize that I'm just going too far. My world has a green dungeon, so to find the shimmer, that means I dig somewhere down around here. This line turned out to be correct, and I've now found the shimmer. I'm going to build my cavern pylon here, but quite a lot of the time it'll act as a jungle pylon, just because of the proximity. With the cavern pylon, we're going to throw the Traveler's Merchant into the shimmer, and also an active stone block. This will give us more trades from the Traveling Merchant, and now with this wire, we can combine it with the silver watch in order to make a timer. Here I want a loaf. We also want to toss in a fruit for ambrosia. With this timer, we can now go and find a trap and connect it up to get infinite bombs. Here we can put down the bomb statue, connect it to the timer, and watch as every so often it will generate bombs. We're going to use that same trick later on with the Hornet statue in order to farm for an easy Bezoar before we go to the jungle biome. Now a goblin army is approaching, so I'm going to go down and use this trap. And the summoners teleport down here for us to fight, while everything else burns up top. And with that, we've defeated the goblins nice and safely. The goblin showed up, so we go ahead and want to get his workbench when we can afford it. Now that it's night, we're going to fight the Eye of Cthulhu.